But it raises the question that I wrestle with every day in every context, which is how do you know what's true? How do you spot, you're being lied to? How do you know? How do you know what's deception and what's truth? What are the signs that you're being lied to? What are the signs that something is bad? I mean, Jesus says, and it's just true. You don't need to be a Christian to believe it, that you judge a tree by its fruits. I can call it an apple tree, but if pears come out, it's not.
Pear tree.
Right, exactly. Right. So how do we know which leaders are lying to us, which are bad? What are the signs?
I think that's got to be one of the most important questions, not just of this time, but of life. How do we know when we're hearing truth? How do we know what truth is? How do we know when we're being deceived? And I don't think we can know truth as individual pieces. I think we have to see a greater design, a greater whole, and assess the pieces in terms of how they facilitate and align with the larger encompassing design of life. Proverbs 24 says that wisdom builds the house. If you're to build that out a little bit, we could say that wisdom is the design that knows how to assemble the pieces together in a way that results in harmony, in wholeness, in completeness. Whereas when knowledge is separated from this design, this encompassing wisdom of truth, we are left with mere fragments. I like to ask the question, what is the difference between a pile of stones and a stone house? Well, a pile of stones, these are the same elements as the stone house, but it has no order. It has no theme. It has no design. And we don't know a stone's place until we understand and glimpse the larger design. And we cannot accurately assess people or facts or events outside of a bigger picture, a bigger worldview that has been assembled through wisdom. Andrew is a musician. I am certainly not, but he could give us an example of how if I ask him to hit a note on the piano, bing, I ask the audience, I say to you, was that note right or wrong? And you say, huh? Because you can't know whether that note is right or wrong until you hear the chord that it belongs to. And you can't know if the chord is correct or false until you hear the song that it belongs to. And this illustrates how we have to have a bigger worldview and a somewhat of a cohesive vision of a design, of a wholeness of life. And then dissonance is going to stand out. It's going to jar in our ears. This aligns with Hans Urs von Belshazzar's assertion that truth is closely linked to beauty and aesthetics. He states, and I quote, "Truth is symphonic." Proportion proves absolutely fundamental to the very essence of life. Consider the intricacy of the human body. The delicate balance among these systems illustrates the impossibility of substitution or redundancy. Sure, one system may have some overlap and another system may have another overlap, but generally speaking, these 11 systems, they stand alone and they are essential. For instance, no increase in the number of kidneys can ever compensate for the absence of a heart. Nor can an extra heart substitute for the critical functions of, say, the liver. This harmonious interplay safeguards against the overemphasis of any single aspect, ensuring that each element is assessed not in isolation, but for its invaluable contribution to the greater whole, the symphony of life. The true worth of each component is measured by its harmonious service to the whole continuity of life itself. My dad used to quote a philosopher by the name of Jonathan Swift. And Swift emphasized a hierarchy among the three basic elements in life or philosophy. These elements were reason, ethics, and aesthetics. He believed that aesthetics holds the key to evaluating and organizing the other two domains. Now, think about that for a second. If I were to ask you, man on the street, what is more important out of reason, ethics, and aesthetics? Well, the empiricist is going to say reason is more important, then ethics, and then aesthetics. And the Christian is going to say ethics is most important, then reason, and then aesthetics. But Swift said, no, aesthetics is most important. And what did he mean by that? What is the meaning of aesthetics? Well, it can mean only beauty or comeliness, but that's not how he's using it. He's using the word aesthetics like we use the word design. And what he's saying is that you cannot understand right reason or proper ethics until you glimpse the bigger design. And the design of the song, the design of the house, the design of the whole will dictate to you the accuracy and proportion of each part. C.S. Lewis said, you can't get second things by putting them first. You can get second things only by putting first things first. Thomas Aquinas suggested that heresy often arises not from embracing falsehood, but from a disproportionate emphasis on certain truths. This echoes Belshazzar's view that heresy distorts truth by neglecting its design harmony, its design element. Proportion is the critical demarcator that distinguishes the healthy enjoyment of God's blessings from the perilous descent into idolatry. The biblical account of Esau serves as a poignant example. He was not prohibited from partaking in lentils as a category, an act innocuous in itself. However, when his legitimate need swelled and bulged beyond its rightful bounds, equating the temporal satisfaction of hunger with the invaluable legacy of his birthright, at that point, a benign indulgence morphed into an object of idolatry. When our affections for a pursuit of a particular truth or concept or pleasure or aspect of our lives eclipses its intended role within the sacred plexus of a whole of the design of God, we veer into the realm of idolatry. Such an imbalanced fixation closes our eyes to the broader, sanctified context in which they were meant to be appreciated and experienced. That is the living, breathing, moving, anointed design of Christ and his body. The designer's golden ratio appears throughout nature, evident in the intricate patterns of the seashell, the magnificent spirals of sunflowers, and the complex structure of the cochlea. This ratio represents a perfect blend of symmetry and proportion, revealing itself as God's exquisite art form woven into the very fabric of our lives. From cosmic patterns to the minutest details of living organisms, there lies an inherent elegant order, a dance of structure and form that resonates with the deepest principles of beauty and balance. The interplay between the aesthetics of nature and the fundamental truths they embody underscores the intrinsic connection between art and truth. Essentially, they are two perspectives of the same thing, each reflecting the other in a harmonious fusion. So, as believers or seekers, where do we start? We have to look at life. Life in terms of flourishing of relationships, flourishing of joy, flourishing of faithfulness, flourishing of love. And we have to say, that is the goal. Now, what is the design that fosters that? And then we have to say, okay, and what are the elements, the truths or falsehoods that serve or diminish from that possibility? In short, we have to get a bigger vision. We have to get a vision that transcends ourself. We have to have a vision of hope and wholeness, a vision for the community of Christ on the earth today. And then from that standpoint of a picture of Eden, even in a vexed and troubled world, from that point we can look back and say, that doesn't resonate, that doesn't fit. We have to hear the song, and then the note will become evident whether it belongs or doesn't. And we can only judge the pieces in terms of how they serve or diminish, facilitate or disrupt the whole, the design. And the design is only as good as it brings about flourishing.